This conference will now be recorded.
Council meeting of July 23rd, 2024 for the town of Surfside Beach. We're going to start with an invocation offered by Pastor John Schaefer, who is also Surfside Beach Police Department chaplain.
Thank you. Thank all of y'all for being here. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, your word says in Proverbs 10 through 11, when it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. And when the wicked perish, there is joyful shouting. By the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted. By the mouth of the wicked, it is torn down. God, we lift this town up to you right now, Lord, to have your way here tonight and every day. Lord, I also pray, Lord, for the citizens here. Thank you for them. As a citizen, we are to pray and intercede for the town council meetings that are about to happen. It is written in Philippians 4:6, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. So God, I want to take my place on the wall and guard my town and my county, all for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join me as I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, are you doing okay? We are at item 3, motions relating to the agenda. Do we have any motions relating to the agenda? All right, we have none. Then I'll move to item 4, minutes approval for July 9th.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Krecklau.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of July 9, 2024.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, Ms. Medina?
Mr. Walls?
I'm sorry, we could just do a
Okay.
voice there.
Yeah.
I'm too, getting rolling already. Sorry about that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there are none. Motion passes unanimously. Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5, public comments, agenda items only. 5 minutes per speaker. Any comments? All right, great. We're now going to move into our communications report, and we're going to start with Administrator Vincent.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of council, good evening. Peer update. Staff members are working on the recommended items per the peer committee's recommendation and approved by town council as follows. To create a delivery zone, purchase of pier swings and volleyball equipment, signage for after hours fishing, plaque ordering process, and to develop a plan to review a visitor center with the possibility of sharing the space with the pier staff. Secondly, to date, the Whistling Duck has not yet received updated plans from his architects and engineers. Once finalized, plans will be submitted for review and approval. And also to date, I have not heard back from Mr. Howard regarding how to proceed with the scheduling of the sheetrock for building A. Inspections of public facilities. Staff has completed the reports for Huckabee Park, Fire Station, Town Hall, the Civic Center, and just today, Works. I have set a date yet, but I've requested McGill and his associate directors to meet with us in a workshop. So looking at the last week in July, I'm just waiting for information from Mr. McGill. Other items are HR specialist Sonia and I've been working on revisions to the town's personnel policy. This will require a workshop by the town council at a future date. And also Mr. Krecklau and I met today and we're working on the pay study and step plan, which continues. And we're going to set a plan in the near future to meet with staff and then bring that forth to council.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Vincent?
volleyball net, which was approved by council for the beach, has been ordered. And the under pier swing hardware is being designed and evaluated by some engineers to make sure that we can put it up safely. In June, our mechanics completed 61 repairs on town vehicles and equipment, as well as 16 vehicles had preventive maintenance performed on them. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Freckenbach.
John, I have noticed that the elevator has more than its share, it seems like, for a new elevator. Have they basically fixed why it keeps breaking?
Well, the primary cause, the first two incidents is possibly part of the reason for the third of three. There was three breakdowns, were because of people jumping up and down on it. It has a motion sensor in it, which triggers a safety feature, which applies a brake, and it cannot be reset by anybody but the elevator company. The first one was repaired the next day. The second one, it was down for a couple of days because they fixed it, but we didn't have on site the proper fuse, which is required to make the lights work. Every time people are rescued out of the cab, the fuse blows for the lights in the cab, and you can't run it without lights in the cab. So we had to wait a day or two to get the proper fuse. So that was part of the reason. We have plenty on site now. The third breakdown was, they believe, because of people jumping around in the cab, but additional to that, there was two other problems with the circuit board and an AC drive at the top of the elevator shaft, an electrical computerized part, which had to come and be programmed specific to our elevator. So it was down for about a week and a couple of days. It was fixed last Wednesday, so we're almost a week now, and I'm anticipating, just like from March till June, there were no real issues with it. And once the tourist season kind of fades away, I expect to see much less of that. But again, these safety features and these computerized systems are part of elevators these days, and nobody but the authorized repair people can touch it. So there's not much we can do to speeding it up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Stamey.
On the same question, this repair stuff, is this costing the town money, or is somebody paying for it since it's still under warranty?
Oh, some of it's warranted and some of it we have to pay for. I haven't gotten an invoice yet. But this, these last repairs, the AC drive and the circuit board that went bad, that's warranted. A service call to come out to reset the elevator after the first incident, we'll probably have to pay for that service call.
How about the toilets and the soap dispensers? Is that stuff,
The toilets?
Is that on our dime, or is that on consensus dime, or who's paying for it?
The toilet was replaced under the warranty from the installer who provided the toilet. The soap dispenser was a
Thanks.
minimal charge.
Just curious, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Watts.
John, where is the maintenance folks for our elevator? Where do they have to come from?
The repairman who handles our area comes from North Murphy. About 20-minute drive.
Better than what I thought.
Yeah, we're on speed dial with each other.
Unfortunately. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Coleman.
There's a fountain, I just saw it on the way in. 7th Avenue North and Myrtle, I don't know what lake that is.
Yeah, between Myrtle and Dogwood, on Palmetto Lake, yes.
Yeah, well, Palmetto and Myrtle. It's surging, is that normal, or is it supposed to just, it looks like it's getting stuck.
Yeah, there's probably some leaves that have to be cleaned
Yeah, it
out
goes
from
up
it.
and comes down, up and down.
Yeah, that's the problem with our lakes, they're very shallow in many cases, and, whatever leaves and accumulated debris gets sucked up in the motor, we have to pretty regularly take them out of the water and clean them out, put it back in.
I would have called you, but I just saw it.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Did you ever get a chance to look at the stop sign by the pier? You were supposed to, I believe you were gonna have a meeting with the police chief.
We've had a discussion, but we haven't met down there. We have a couple of ideas. I shared a couple with you. And then we'll come up with a recommendation.
And, so we're doing good with fishing passes. How much did we get out of that? How much have we gotten from fishing passes, all kind of stuff on the pier?
Well, for June, it equaled just over $26,000. Obviously, May was less because it was only 10 days or 9 days in May. But June, the first full month, was about $26,000. And then I expect, obviously, as the summer ends, you'll see that dip down a bit. We'll see.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor? Ms. Shawn?
Question about the elevator key did we have the correct key to the elevator?
Yes.
Okay, because there was a rumor going around that we did not have the right key.
No, I think what the misunderstanding might be is that for the fire department to open the door, when someone's trapped in an elevator,
Mhm.
we have an ability to open that door, turn the power off to the elevator,
Okay.
not the rescue personnel only, public works would not do this. And then there's a key that you put through the metal door to lift the latch, and that opens the door manually, so you can get above that cab. The first incident that happened, the fire department could not make that key work on the first floor. They got above it, and no problem, and it opened on the second floor, but it couldn't work on the first floor. And the elevator technician advised the fire marshal and I, and showed us how that works. We looked at the inside of the door, how that mechanism works, and there's a couple of instances with the elevator is right there, and there's a plate that comes down, which may block you from doing that in certain cases. But you can certainly get above it. So, I think we all have an understanding now. We're gonna have a little class with the technician and the fire engine company so everybody can see what we saw. So how the inner workings of this go. But having the key, we've had the key all along.
Okay, I just wanted to know
Yeah.
the misconception.
Yeah, some of it is because of the newness of it all. Once you do it a couple of times, then it becomes routine.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kinker?
I want to ask the obvious question. If kids were jumping up and down and set it off, they're still in the elevator. Are they not?
They are.
Can we identify them?
I don't know if a report is being taken. I understand this last incident, names were taken and addresses.
Okay, that's all you can ask.
Yeah. The fire marshal did say we might want to, at some point, do like they're proposing to do with fire wrecks on the highway and start charging for response. If you can show that that's, maybe put a camera in there and show that's what actually happened. Because obviously, if you don't have video evidence of it, it's kind of hard to say, it's your word against theirs. But we'll see what the future brings. Let's put it
Okay.
that way. Yeah.
Because I think you only have to catch them once, and that'll put a stop to it.
Well, yeah, people here on vacation for a week, and as you know, we all know that people tend to let loose a little bit while they're here on vacation, and then Saturday they check out and somebody else checks in. So I don't know that, what happens on week one is gonna affect anything on week two.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a non-elevator question. Any more news on beach renourishment scheduling?
No, not a word, not a word. Again, as I think I mentioned once before, the original plan was to bid it out for the fall, at the end of the summer, and I've understood that has been pushed back into like a fall-winter scenario. But it has not, I haven't gotten any correspondence at all from the county about it. They're the lead on the project. But if I hear anything, I will pass it on to Jerry and he can share with the council. If I have, at a meeting, I'll bring it to you at a meeting.
All right, thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I think that's it for Director Dare. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
All right, we'll move on to Police Department, Interim Chief Davis.
Good evening, everyone. Just to share a little bit about our June activity, we had a little over 200 citations written, 11 ordinance citations, and 325 warning citations. And our arrest data for June, we had 6 arrest warrants with 5 served and 1 still outstanding. 3 warrants were served for narcotics violations and 24 total arrests. No significant personnel actions that we saw in the month of June. Our training activity, nothing remarkable, just essentially what is required to keep our certification up. We do currently have an officer at the Criminal Justice Academy in South Carolina for his basic instructor or his actually specific skills instructor certification. That costs us $5 for him to go up there. Wow. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, our overview of calls for service shows we answered 565 calls for service in June of 2024. In comparison, we answered 534 during June 2023. It's about a little over a 5% increase, so it's moderate. Most importantly, we are entertaining applications once again, and I am happy to say, and I will thank Ms. Tabitha and Captain Mickle for their collaboration on this. We've received several that are presently in review. We have an evaluation process to be held the 28th and 29th of July. We have 12 candidates scheduled thus far to attend. We may have a couple more that come in the next few days, but as of today, we have 12 scheduled. At least one of those is certified in South Carolina. One of the others is certified in another state, which we call a lateral certification. And I do believe Captain Mickle is speaking with one other individual out of state. But it may be a later arrival if things work out with that officer. So we are having, let me just say it, thank you guys for allowing us to do the reorganization. I think having that funding available has piqued interest much more. I've never seen a time when we've had 12 applications at one time. Now, if I'm wrong, Bill, you tell me. But I mean, it's directly attributable to the support that we've gotten. So thank you all very much. We did receive a compliance notification from the South Carolina Department of Public Safety on 3 grants, 2 in-car video camera grants and 1 body worn camera grant, that we are in compliance with those 3 specific grants. There are 2 different fiscal years, one for 2024 and the other 2 for 2023. We worked hard to get that in line with what we need to do. Currently, we have 4 openings currently, with 2 frozen positions as well. And we're excited about running our processes coming up. And again, I do want to thank Ms. Tabitha for all her assistance. She has been tremendous in helping us get the word out. Come to Surfside. There are a couple of investigations I would like to just kind of give you a little bit of an update on. A couple of note. One, we did have a shooting event that occurred last week that we are currently investigating. We consider this to be an isolated incident. We don't think there's any danger to the town. There's some things I cannot go into, of course, because of the security of the investigation. However, I will tell you that we are following up on these as we speak. We think that we're making headway towards getting to the bottom of that. There is also another investigation where we've been investigating the potential damage to an oak tree here in town. And we've covered quite a bit of ground on that. We are working in tandem with an investigator, a pesticides investigator from Clemson, the Clemson Extension Service. She's assisting us with some of what we don't know about trees and pesticides, so she has been helpful there. We have an investigator that is assigned to that. We interviewed somebody again today on that case as well. So we're trying to track down, we're trying to develop a credible timeline as to how this may have occurred. So we have reviewed some video footage and we've talked with several people. So we're continuing that as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Interim Chief Davis?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw?
is there any way to break down, like, I know different reports show different things, like your calls, like how many calls actually go to the pier? I know, I kind of asked that in the middle of the month, so I didn't expect it on this report.
You know what, it completely slipped my mind. I
Well,
apologize.
you may have 1 or 2 things on your mind, okay?
As a matter of fact, I ran some of that data and I just didn't bring it. But what happens is anything that's like within several hundred yards of the pier on the beach also comes into that CAD. So,
Okay.
but we can still tease it out. So that's something that I will I've made a note here so I won't forget. But I'll have that data for you when we meet again.
Yeah, it was just something that the pier committee had asked me to ensure that we had the coverage and everything. And I just was curious about the numbers.
I think it's a good data set to look at. It helps us know that or make sure that we're allocating our personnel properly. So I'm on board with that now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey?
Chief, could you tell me why we have a 10.9% increase in actual calls from this time last year? Are there anything that is standing out that shows more calls or something happening?
I wondered about that, Mr. Stamey, and I appreciate the question. I haven't figured out why. It may be because several people are calling more, and I wouldn't know why that is, but we may have more visitors this year. Last year, economically, there was some talk from folks at the chamber that we didn't hit our numbers last year on visitors. I don't know if that's the case this year. I do know that we're busy. I do know that we're tracking more self-initiated. We're tracking less self-initiated and more call initiated. So we may be capturing some of our call volume. It may be a little more accurate as well on the CAD system. We had a discussion not too long ago with Mr. Colton about some of our data sets. And we have some data sets that they're twins, basically. They mimic each other. We should be consolidating some of that. So I'm not sure if some of that gets, maybe in the past have been double reported or underreported. So we're trying to tease through that. But I think as the year wears, as we move forward towards Labor Day, I'm thinking that maybe we'll have a little more of an understanding of why we have more of an influx of calls. I'm hoping.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
how is your feeling of, is crime just about the same as last year, other than the isolated incident, which you really can't stop on that shots fired?
I don't feel like we have an increase in crime. We have an increase in calls for service. We do, one of the things that we're seeing, I think this year is maybe a few more false alarm calls than we've had in the past. We still respond to those, of course, and some of those are repeat alarms. I'm trying to deal with one right now with a local business here that we've got several. I would say that's probably could be some of the uptick. But as far as the city being safe, I feel like we are, and we have, one of the things that we've tried to do is we try to put our officers more in touch with where folks live here and our businesses, so that they have more contact with them, so that we know more about what's going on in the neighborhoods. I want these officers and I want the people that live here to know they're police officers. That's important. It's a huge part of transparency, and as you know, and it's a huge part of our plan to try to make sure that we have a relationship with folks where they're willing to talk with us about things that are going on in the neighborhood. So I do feel like we're making headway there, and I do feel like we're a safe community. As we add officers, as we move forward, and we add officers to these vacancies that we have, I think that you'll see even more of a presence of us in the neighborhoods as well. So.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kinker?
of the 24 total arrests, how many did you have to transport to Conway?
Unfortunately, sir. Well, I do think there were 3 or 4 that we wound up taking to Myrtle Beach that were Myrtle Beach's arrests. So what happened is we stopped them. They were going down to Myrtle Beach. So we took them to Myrtle Beach. The remainder are Conway bound. So that's quite a few.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. It is. And the thing about it is, Mr. Kinkin, I lose that officer for a couple hours. And that's.
You don't go to Conway in 30 minutes.
It's difficult. Yes, sir. It is.
All right. That's why I asked.
Yes, sir.
It's still a problem.
Yes, sir.
I just have one question. The 12 applicants that you're going to see in the next week or so, is there a potential to fill all 4 openings with those?
We could. We're excited to meet these folks and just see what their thoughts are, and if their philosophy of service matches what ours is. And we want people here that are going to have a service heart, and if they're willing to do that and willing to do what it takes to become Academy certified. Some are already certified, or one is in South Carolina. But if they're willing to do that and they have a good background, we'll certainly give them a try.
Okay, so I mean, there's no sergeant's position or higher that you're trying to fill?
Not right now.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Thank you, Interim Chief Davis.
Thank
Thank you very
Chris.
much.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the Fire Department, Chief Nelson.
Hello, good evening. I was asked to give an update on where we are with hiring. Today, Monday, we actually filled 2 more positions. So we have a total of 4 firefighter EMTs. Our 2 newest hires started Monday, like I said, firefighter Backlund and firefighter Herrick. They're currently going through a 2-week process where they get to know everybody on shift, where equipment is and everything else, and get climatized to how Surfside operates. We have 2 more open positions. I have 3 more applications sitting on my desk, and I'm hoping to interview those 3 next week and see if we can finish filling out the firefighters. We interviewed for a fire captain this week. We had 3 applicants that were paramedics. Of those 3, 1 came in for an interview. 1 denied wishing to continue on further. The other one we didn't hear from. We still don't feel we have a good applicant for a captain, so we're going to be reopening that up for the position to get rehired. The fire inspector position has been opened up and posted online. We have not received any applications currently. We have 2 more volunteers that have applied. That gives us a total of 7 new volunteers, 4 of which are already interior firefighters coming from other fire departments. We have approximately 25 part-time applications that are sitting on my desk currently. We haven't started any of that process because I don't have gear to put them in. Once I get that a little bit more situated, which hopefully we have 6 sets coming in this week is what I was told, that will help free up a little bit that we can start that process. On to a couple other things. I met with the 2 commissioners Thursday. We have an ordinance in place that allows us to bill for motor vehicle accidents and structure fires. It bills our insurance company. It's already put into place. What I would like to do is go ahead and move forward with that, with your approval. I believe that at that time, they felt that it was something we could move ahead with. We didn't really need to, but they wanted to give it up for you guys to have some type of communication and talk about. I think it would bring in some funding for us that we could use toward the training grounds to upgrade our training grounds, which would help out with ISO when it comes to that point. We have 1 Connex box down there currently. We'd like to get a second one down there and a smaller one and stack them and get them welded together that we could use as a structural burn unit. This would help with our training process and stuff like that the guys could actually get in, get a little bit of fire going, stretch the hoses and get them pulled through. So this is something that we're looking to do. It would be a 3rd-party billing company that would do that. How we figured we could do it is the 2 square miles that we've covered, that's where we bill in. Anything that we go to that in that area, we would put on our report and insurance documentation. Anybody that's a resident of the town, it's just going to bill their insurance company. That's all it's going to be. And they would pay that. We wouldn't go after any further. If you do not live in our town, then we would send it out 3 times for collection to see what we get, and then we would let it go from there. So it's not going to be anything that comes out of anybody's personal pocket, but there is money set aside in insurances that help pay for that we're not utilizing currently, that we could help fund some of the fire department's needs.
Do we have any questions for Chief Nelson?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
so you're missing 1 captain. How do you fill that space?
We have to get somebody that's qualified to do it. And I didn't feel at this time that we had anybody in there that was in that position to do it.
I know, but one of the shifts is missing a captain, right?
Correct.
So there's another captain on overtime coming?
No, right now we have an interim acting captain. One of the gentlemen that's been there for quite some time, he's acting as the captain. And we're filling a firefighter position.
So then you fill, then you have the firefighter come in to fill his spot or?
As the addition, yes.
Okay. When you start hiring part-time, are you gonna hire any part-time captains or engineers or just firefighters?
Firefighters.
Okay.
They'll also be cross-trained as an engineer.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, vacations or sick or something, it's always, you only have 3 captains.
Yeah.
there's always gonna be somebody who's
So
missing.
this, I feel, gives opportunity for anybody that we have that's internally in there that wishes to try to promote it sometime, to have that capability to be able to sit the seat as long as they're, knowledgeable about what's going on, which this gentleman's been around for quite some time and has that knowledge, and that would give them a step up.
What about, do you have a volunteer captains or no?
We do not. Well, I take that back. We do. We have one volunteer captain, correct?
Is he allowed to do that or?
Yeah, you can sit in the seat too.
Okay. All right. That program you're talking about, billing people for accidents, when do you think you'll be able to get that going?
And as soon as I get the okay, all I have to do is call the company and start the process.
And you also have, for the fire marshal too, different rates?
Correct. I'm gonna go into that a little bit more. I was just giving you time. I didn't know if
Oh,
you wanted
okay,
to
I'm sorry.
discuss that or not, or if you want me to continue on, either way.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry, when you stopped, I thought,
I apologize.
I should have asked.
The aerial, that's one thing that we've been talking about. So the aerial and the engine are both due in 6 years for replacement. An average aerial is $2 million, an engine is $1 million, so we're talking $3 million. To me, that's a big ask for the town to give up $3 million all at one shot. What I'm trying to do is break up that aerial and the engine in between that time. So what I would like to do is start the process next year of replacing the aerial. It's gonna take roughly 1 to 2 years to receive that aerial anyway, because of how things are being built and how long it's taking to get stuff. So we're probably looking at 2027, 28 time period, receiving that aerial. 2030 is when that is out, as well as the engine. My goal is to try to stretch the engine out another 4 more years. So 2034, that we would replace the engine, and that would give us a 6-year buffer in between the two apparatuses. After that point, next 6 years from there, we have the rescue coming up. So instead of having everything all at one time and have to come up with funding, I'm trying to break that up a little bit, but I would like his permission to go ahead with that. It'd be for next year's budget anyway. I could bring it up at next year's budget, but I just wanted to get you guys in the understanding where we're at with this apparatus, and I don't feel it's comfortable to come up with $3 million and ask for a replacement for an engine and an aerial all at one time. So if we could break that up, I think that would save the town quite a bit of headaches and money as far as that goes. We're also looking for the fire inspection, to start billing for fire inspections. Currently, I got Merle's Inlet's fire inspections, and the average cost of what it would cost for a fire inspection is around $100 to $150 for 1 year to have us come in and do an inspection for it. Myrtle Beach, I reached out to them. They're gonna be giving me theirs as well, so that we can get a kind of comparison of what they're doing. These fire departments are already billing for it as well. It helps to get us in there and possibly pay for that fire inspector, second one that we're putting on there, and help the town. Currently, we have one fire inspector, and he's not able to even get to about half. So this would allow us to get that extra fire inspector in there and do that. The billing process is something that's already happening already. Myrtle Beach is doing it. I believe North Myrtle Beach is doing it. Merle's Inlet's doing it. I would just be going along with them. I feel it's a good way to bring in a little bit of income to kind of even out the fire inspection that we're going to be paying for that second fire inspector. I don't have everything, so I'm just bringing that up to your attention. Once I get that second proposal, we'll go ahead and I'll make sure that everybody's aware of what the rates are for Myrtle Beach as well as Merle's Inlet. And lastly, I wanted to remind town citizens that we're in hurricane season, that we recommend that you have enough rations of food and water to last you at least 3 days. Also remember to have enough of your medications as well. If you're asked to evacuate, you should also keep a house bill such as water or electric that has your address on it in a glove box. Once you come back in, they're going to need to verify that you have something that shows that, either your driver's license or something. It does not mean that you will be able to get back in right away. We want you to be understanding of that if roads or conditions are bad, that we're not going to be allowed to let people back in because of potential for injury. We also wanted to let you know that once winds are sustained at 40 miles per hour, that EMS and fire service will no longer respond. This means if you decide to stay, that you're on your own. It's not that we're not wanting to help you, but we would be putting our folks out in danger trying to come out and get you when you had an opportunity to leave. So we just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that, and we want you to be prepared. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
finish my question. It's $3 million. Supposedly, we have that already in the fund somewhere.
I asked Miss Melanie here, and she believes there's some money, and she's not exactly sure how much is in there, but there is substantial money.
So we probably have enough money for the area.
Correct.
And we have 6 years to get more money for the pump.
Correct.
And then we just gotta keep doing it.
Yep. We have to keep it at
So we shouldn't be raising people's taxes or.
I would assume that we wouldn't, as long as we have a replacement funds that
Yeah.
keeps adding that in so that it grows.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walsh.
just curious, do we have to pay for that, for the truck, the aerial, the engine? Do you have to pay for them when you order it, or is there a
No,
deposit?
when I've ordered before, we did not pay until we delivered. The other thing I would add in there is there's a lot of the companies tend to get behind. So you put a clause in there, just like the pier, that, you know, you miss a deadline, that, you know, it cost you so much per day missing that deadline.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. KK.
I've been meaning to see Keith and I keep missing him, but is he finding that once he's gone through once and made his inspections, that the next time he comes back, the next year, or whenever he comes back again, he's not finding as much?
For the most part, he is. I think he's been pretty busy lately with a couple of the places that we've had to go to. But for the most part, I think they are getting into that habit of him coming in and finding it. And it's usually smaller stuff. I know one item I just saw you went to, it's usually exit lights. It's a battery for any type of emergency lights that have to do because people aren't checking. You know, and that's the main thing. And those are easy fixes. And that's what we want to see. And that's our goal, is that we want to get into that fact that it's just okay, boop, 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 you fix this and we're out and we're on our way.
Well, we weren't doing it for a number of years, so he's catching up a lot.
Yep, he's had found a few that, quite scary, to be honest.
Okay.
So that's.
I just wanted to ask.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Walsh, just one last question. So when you said 50%, are you saying that he's able to get to currently 50% of the businesses in town on an annual basis?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
So,
we've heard different figures there.
yes, so
At one time, we were told that he wasn't able to get to them but every 3 years.
that's roughly what it is. I take that back, so I apologize. It is roughly every 3 years is what it was. But he is trying to get to more as he goes, but it's just not capable of doing it, is what that was my point.
So
I apologize.
this help will do that.
Absolutely.
All right, I think that's it then. Thank you very much, Chief Nelson. We're gonna move into public information and events. Ms. Tabitha Mall.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope you're having a fabulous day. Okay, so let's get right into communication. Our websites, of course, they continue to be updated, and I'm gonna say that forever. I update them on the daily. Our tourism advertisements, newspaper, social, radio continue to drive the traffic to our lovely town, and that's a great thing. Social media reach is up 172% and engagement is up 41%, which means people are loving the content that we're posting, even on our website. So our website interaction is pretty far up there as well. Our chamber partnership with the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, I am requesting that they give me either a monthly or a quarterly update so I can present it to you guys, and that will let you guys know what we're working on together. So I look forward to us inventing that and kind of working through it to see what our success rates are on that end. Meetings, I've had many meetings with the media partners and they have all been super successful, so that helps a lot. The hurricane preparedness meeting with Ed Piotrowski resulted in us coming up with a 2025 Hurricane Expo that we will all take part in, including children. So I can't wait to put that together for next year. Jan and Ed were great partners in that. I've researched and negotiated the Civic Plus app for our smartphones. They started at a $13,000 number. I got them down to a $7,140 number. So I'm going to now partner up with the finance department, see about our finances to be able to get that to you guys. I know a lot of people use their smartphones on the daily, and up to 5 to 6 times people are always accessing those phones to either go to websites or any type of social media. In the vein of saving some money, I'm also working with Civic Plus right now to save us a little bit of money, and more to come on this, so not a lot of info for you. But currently, one of my communications is I send out the weekly emails. So Mayor Krause's email goes out with MailChimp. This Week in Surfside Beach goes out, public notices goes out, all of those moving parts to a separate company with MailChimp, and I'm working with Civic Plus at no cost, that we can do it through our website. So I'm really excited about that. So exciting news to come. All right, moving into events. The 4th of July festivities, we had a great time there. Wow, golf carts, amazing. The Salute to Shore, being like, we had like just a week or two to deliver on asking people to come out with their flags and join us at the pier, either on the beach or on the pier. We had a great turnout, so it was really exciting to see. And Salute to Shore let me know that they're gonna put us on their website. So that's pretty cool, because obviously they got some great pictures, so pretty cool. Again, weekly events continue. Can you believe it is almost over? Crafters Cove, August the 15th is the last of that. Hula shows, August 12th, the last of that.
I'll get the sound.
Now we're asking, at the beginning of the hula and fire shows, we're asking about who's here on vacation, who's here from the Grand Strand, and who's here from Surfside Beach proper. We're getting a lot of good responses, around a 60% mark on the tourism piece of that. So it's really exciting to see. Live music, that's going to continue through September the 29th. And then exciting news, we have City Lights Band Trio is going to be performing our second pier concert. And that's going to be Wednesday, July 24th from 6 to 8. So I hope you all join us. The town council will be attending the League of Cities dinner meeting, and that is hosted for the first time by the town of Surfside Beach. So that is pretty exciting to get involved in that, in that, and I hope to see you all there. And that's going to be hosted at the Holiday Inn Oceanfront Resort. So thank you to them. We have an upcoming sunrise yoga, so all the yoga enthusiasts join us there, and it's also a beach sweep after that. That's going to take place on Wednesday, August the 7th at 6 in the morning for the early birds. The ribbon cutting at Coastal Corn is going to be August the 8th at 1 o'clock. And then I just want to say to the entire town council, to everyone involved, that the town associates are so appreciative of the Associate Appreciation Pelicans game that they are going to get to enjoy with their peers and have a great night of festivities. So they all wanted me to say thank you, and I would like to say thank you too. So that's taking place on August the 8th. For the town, for all of you guys out there, just as a resident, please feel free to come out, because the mayor is going to throw out the first pitch. And I think his coach is in the building, so thank you to Coach Bob. So we appreciate that, and we definitely want him to get that ball across the plate. All right, and then we already have our 2025 calendar of events baked. Before you got this, it was in the works. Now that is baked, so that will have, it'll go public within the next couple of weeks. So we're doing some great things over there. Awesome.
All right, do we have any questions for Ms. Long?
Just, Mr. Mayor, just one clarification. You've got on the sheet here the Pelicans. I know that RSVP and I will be there, but is it the 14th or the 8th?
The 14th.
I thought you mentioned just now the 8th. I didn't know.
No, the 8th is the ribbon cutting.
Yeah. Corner.
Because I thought I heard that wrong too.
Yeah, it's the ribbon cutting. Thank you.
Just me trying to keep up.
No problem.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Coleman?
did we get any money from Horry County for the events?
We did. I don't have the full scope on that. I know it was $75,000 Tyler Servant was working on to get us. That in ATAX, that gets doubled up, to $150,000. So thank you, Tyler Servant. But I haven't gotten the briefing on that yet. So I do know what it is, so.
That's, I heard that.
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring that up.
Sure.
Music on the pier.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
The problem is, a lot of people are concerned that they can't sit. Hula show, you can sit. Music on the pier, can't sit. Any explanation? I know it's not your decision, but any explanation why? I mean, on the hula show, they turn the benches around. Quick release, possibly on the benches.
Yes, and I will turn it over to David for that answer.
So it's an occupancy code. When you put chairs onto the pier, it blocks exits and everything else, the discharge exits. So when we put that on, it limits the amount of people on. So either we put chairs on there and you're gonna limit less, you're gonna have less people allowed to go on there, or we take the chairs off. Also, by putting the chairs on there, if there should be any type of issues, panic or anything like that, it's a tripping hazard and it's an exit discharge problem. So it's just, in the codes, the fire codes, we couldn't do it.
Okay, you have benches on the pier.
Yep. They're permanently mounted.
Yeah, some of them are loose. If we just use the benches, reconfigure it during the music, would that be all right, or that wouldn't be all right?
Depends on where the benches are put.
Right, I understand you don't want to block egress.
Correct.
But if they were arranged a certain way, it's possibly you could, I'm just throwing it out there, just trying to find a compromise.
We can get with Keith, the fire marshal, and John, and they can try to figure that out, but at this time, we can't put the chairs on there.
No, I get the chairs, but they're using benches to look at they turn the benches around, so they're loose. I understand that some of them are still attached to the pier. There we go. All right, come on, John.
I just want to clarify that anything beyond the gate, closer to the water is bolted down. Anything on the land side of the gate is loose and we can move them around as needed, like we have been for the hula show. But anything beyond that gate is bolted down.
Okay, is there a reason why those are bolted down, the other ones aren't bolted down?
A couple reasons. Number one, for the wind load, and number two, because we don't want people rearranging them all day long, which they would. We already had one person drag one of the ones you can move over to in front of Surf Diner to get into the shade. We came in one afternoon and there was a bench moved from the little corridor over into the corner because they could. So we don't want to encourage that out on the pier with all the other activities going on.
So normally you'd want the benches secured to the pier for wind conditions, so it wouldn't pick it up and throw them around.
Yeah, and they were all positioned on the concrete where they're not going to interfere with deck sections if they had to blow out in a storm. So that they're positioned, if you look at them, they're not touching the trench material.
But it could possibly be a solution. So some of the benches could be removed for the night or not. I mean.
Yeah, I think the egress portion, the aisle distances that you need for access and egress, I think if Keith were here, he could probably tell you the exact number distances that you need. I don't know if you can achieve that with even, benches placed different, different position. We have them set up, so the aisles are maintained as well.
I'm not sure it can be done, but it would be nice to find out if it could. If it can, it can. But, I just don't want to say no just because we don't do it. I mean, just throwing out an idea, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But, we have a lot of senior citizens in the neighborhood, and they would like to go up there and listen to the music, and it would be a nice thing if they could.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Mr. Mayor? That's right.
Yeah, I can keep on you moving.
Okay.
Miss Shaw.
Okay.
Oh, do you want them back?
I may have to have them back, because I need clarification.
Okay.
Are no chairs allowed on the pier at any time?
No.
No, but you can have them for the hula show, but not for the music because of the volume of people.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Got it.
All right.
Is there anything else? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're now going to move on to Planning, Building and Zoning, Director Garrison.
Good evening. I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna read because it's a lot of information. But we made 23 address corrections in the land records from June 1st through July 15th. A summary of code enforcement activity over the past 4 months includes the following: responded to or initiated 644 activities or interactions, completed an enclosure survey in the special flood hazard areas, issued 4 stop work order notices, mailed 48 compliance letters with 14 still pending compliance. This includes 6 right-of-way letters for Melody Lane, created 5 educational flyers to assist residents with compliance, closed out 42 old compliance letters from previous code officers, handed out over 50 awareness cards to companies post-building permits, self-initiated and gained voluntary compliance from residents or businesses on the following issues: 22 fences, 12 lawns, 4 stormwater concerns, 26 business license, and 31 building permits. Submitted 11 town ordinances for review, identified 6 transient or short-term rentals now in compliance, identified 9 nuisance properties with only 3 still considered a nuisance, and submitted 2 nuisance properties for abatement. Initiated 44 open general compliance issues with 10 still open. Moving on, a summary of building inspection activities and updates over the past month includes the following: the Sand Fiddler, Donnie Stewart Construction is opening up more areas of the structure to evaluate the extent of damage. 214 Ocean Boulevard South, a stop work order was issued for the front porch area. We're waiting for an engineered letter on the design and repair of the front porch. 216 Ocean Boulevard South, an engineer evaluation was completed and we're waiting on a report for how to proceed. The Putt-Putt course on Highway 17 South completed final power inspection and walked the course with the owner, determining handrail requirements and possible hazards for elderly and small children. Coastal corn, the fire marshal and building inspector are determining if a hood is needed for popcorn cooking operation. Neil and Pam's, there are current venting issues. It's leaking grease and oil onto the roof, which has damaged the front area of the roof around the vent. Donnie Stewart Construction is evaluating the damage and will be updating staff. Inspections of town buildings, as Jerry mentioned this earlier, Mr. Vincent, fire marshal and building inspector have been inspecting town buildings, and they only needed to inspect the public works, which they did today, to complete the inspection list. The reports have been generated and sent to appropriate staff. In addition, the staff is in the process of reviewing existing ordinances. Examples include sign, design overlay, and right-of-way to determine ways to improve them. We're looking at ways to modernize ordinances to address a variety of issues that the town is currently facing. We've updated current procedures to ensure staff is following ordinance requirements to include, but not limited to, the development director reviewing all surveys and plats and properties within the design overlay district. We're establishing or updating procedures regarding checklists for each permit type to ensure all documentation is submitted and compliance is met. We are in the process of reviewing, assessing, and searching old documents to improve efficiency. All items deemed important will be scanned to easily locate and assess for all staff. This is an ongoing process that will continue until all items are scanned or disposed of.
Been busy. Any questions for Director Garrison?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Craiglaw.
on the 42 old compliance letters from previous code enforcers,
Yes, sir.
I know of one stop work order that was just down the street from me. I probably should have came and talked to you about it because I don't really want to give the address or anything.
Okay.
But did we close out any that were actually stop work orders, and did we investigate to see if it had been resolved, if there was a stop? Because in this particular case, they were given a stop work order. They completed the work. Basically, I don't think anything was ever done to them, and I know it's still not in compliance. But
if you could come speak to me so
Okay.
that we can
I will.
resolve this matter,
and
it would be greatly
I will
appreciated.
do that. And I forgot about it the other day when I was talking to you. And my other question is on coastal corn. I know there's I believe it's an Italian bakery that's not in town that has been delayed, greatly delayed, because they ordered non-compliant appliances from China and that weren't UL listed. And I just wondered, I'm pretty sure if Keith did it, he's aware and knows that they complied, but I just wanted to make sure that he was aware that some people are buying.
Oh, yes,
equipment
sir.
that-
If Keith did it, I can assure you that he verified all information was correct prior to it moving
And I kind
forward.
of agree he probably did if he's the one that.
Yeah, he ensures that they submit all of the cut sheets with the
But I will,
manufacturer.
I will stop in with the address and talk
That
to you
sounds
about
great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kinkin.
would you explain what a non-nuisance properties are?
That would be anything from, mainly, most of the time, it's overgrown, where it needs to be cut back or something, and it's, if he's resolved them, then he's gotten them to cut it back or come in and clear cut the lot or something to that effect. If he pushed it forward for abatement, then he hasn't been able to contact the property owner, and at this point, he's trying to figure out how the town can move forward and abate those properties and get them taken care of.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Shaw.
I just want to tell you, Chris Cochran.
Yes.
Wanted to make sure I said his name right. A couple of residents have contacted me and I've contacted him directly. And he is just wonderful.
He's one of the.
And now I guess the residents were coming to me first, they didn't know who to call. And now that I got them to talk and they're coming back and telling me, he's really a great guy, they're very nice there. And so there's a lot of good communication going on from Town Hall. And I just wanted a big shout out for Chris because he's making a big difference. He doesn't dismiss you, he explains things. He's just an overall good communicator.
He's very thorough.
So I appreciate that.
He's great with compliance issues. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Wallace.
Couple things, Heather.
Yes, sir.
Explain to me why we're getting in the situation. I just need to know why we're having to do stop orders. Are these people that just did not come to us for permits in the beginning and we found out they were doing work, or?
And sometimes that's the case, a couple of times that's the case. In another case, one of the contractors wasn't necessarily licensed to be doing the type of work that he was trying to do. So we had to put a stop work order on it until we could get a further engineer evaluation and be able to get the proper work to be done on it.
Impressive, good catch. And the other thing, I just, was just curious, other than February, it seems to be a one-off year to date. Where our permits were up and our revenues were definitely up in February. Any idea, I know you're still trying to get your head around Surfside Beach, but any idea why we seem to be trending down as far as the number of permits and the revenues?
I'm not sure why we would be trending down. I see what the trend that you're talking about.
Well, it's just year over year, we're just not making as much money. I just wondered. We're not doing as many permits.
My understanding is that there's really not that much work done in the summer, but we are steadily busy this summer. And usually the work starts after the season ends in September through the winter months.
Yeah, I was just looking at year, previous year revenue versus, it just seems that we beat 5 out of the 6 months we're down. And I was just wondering if there was any talk in the industry as to what might be going on out there. I'm just curious.
I can further verify this information and
Just
do a little
curious.
research for you.
Nah, just curious. I'll start doing some research.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Mayor, Mr. Coleman?
Just one question. The short-term rentals,
Yes, sir.
that's the people who have a home in the residential and not the rental area.
Yes, sir.
And they're renting a house.
And we're doing like an Airbnb type thing.
Yeah, yeah, the Airbnb or VRBO,
Mhm.
and we're catching them, and how are we cutting them down?
That's when he's sending letters, following up. He's probably speaking with the people actually in person, knowing Chris. But he's getting them to stop. They're not doing it anymore. And it's something that he continues to follow up on. Once he finds them, it's not something he just lets go.
All right, if people in the neighborhood are afraid to call up on them, you can tell me. I've already reported 3 or 4 of them.
Well, thank you.
No, it's wrong. I used to have a rental home and it was in a rental area. We shouldn't have rental homes in the residential area. It's as simple as that. And, I mean, we had a state rep who wanted to do that and hopefully it doesn't come around. We'll have to nip it in the bud before it does. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, then, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to the business, but, I actually had a comment before the meeting about no finance report, and I spoke with Director Gruber before, and it's simply because we're at the end of the fiscal year, so it would be a very, detailed report, so it's just gonna take a little longer before we get there.
There's a
So,
lot to do.
there's a lot to do. There you go. So we're gonna move on to, item 7A, Sundown Restaurant and Sports Bar Design Overlay Improvement Grant. That'll be Director Garrison as well.
If you look at the images in your packet, it's the West Virginia wall, and I'm gonna update you. So they did submit an encroachment permit because it is on an alleyway, and they were denied for landscaping. We can't do any landscaping, but they will be able to do pavers with white crushed rock, and that was what we approved. I think Mr. Benson and I decided today that if they need to resubmit, some new bids so that that information can be updated. But if you look at that area where it's a little grassy area, that's the area that they're looking to kind of revamp that little portion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walls.
I took the time to drop by the Sundown today and met with the manager, Kathy, very nice.
Yeah, she's so nice.
And she took a walk with me and showed me, and basically it already kind of sort of exists.
Yeah, it does a
I
little
mean,
bit.
the paper outline is still there, but it's just gone down.
Yeah.
So I think she would be fine with it. I have some concerns about the bids. You might mention to her that, these folks don't necessarily have a business license with us
Yes, sir.
to do business in town, as well as, so she's not gonna be able to get, the people aren't gonna be able to get permitted.
Yes, sir.
So the work, since it is that close to the road, really needs to be done right.
Yeah, correct.
So just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, I can let her know when we reach back out to her.
You might ask her to make sure that her people get a business license. One of them, I think, is family.
And verify, yes, sir.
One of them, I think, is family that's did that, do it. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Crutchlow.
I'd like to say that the drawing they sent is pretty
Wasn't that hydrant?
worthless. It doesn't really show where the property line is, and I believe probably that most of the pavers and rock are going to go on the right of way, not really their property. I don't have a problem with that, but everybody in town seems to think they own the right of way. So I don't know where to go with that, but anyway, it doesn't really show anything except for they're doing 7 feet. Well, I don't believe there's 7 feet from the wall even to the road. It's probably more like 4 or 5 foot. And whoever drew this up, I think is just because it was a requirement. And Mr. Walls' thing about number 11 actually says all required permits must be obtained before work begins on here. But with that being said, we need to police that. We need to police that we're getting receipts and that we're only paying half of what they spend because it's a matching grant. We're not just giving them money. It's illegal to even do that. And I think that because there is a city person or a family member bidding on it, it almost shows to me that maybe these bids are a little collusive. I'm not saying they are or aren't, but it just appears funny that they're all within the same ballpark, and we're talking about over $3,000 to spread a little bit of rock and a few pavers. Now, the pavers can be expensive if you're gonna pave it all, but it doesn't really show how much is pavers and how much is rock. I'm just saying.
But with the walkthrough, Mr. Mayor, if I could, just to comment to Mr. Krakow, that most of the pavers are already there.
Okay,
I don't think she's gonna have a great deal of expenditure for new pavers.
so just
They're
rock,
just overgrown.
expensive rock. But I'm just saying, I'm not asking you to really do much about it except for keep tabs on what they're spending. And I don't know if it's your job to do that or if it's finance or whose job it is, but whoever's job it is, it needs to be addressed and kept track of. I believe our funding for these design overlays is going to run out before the year is even through this summer. It'll run out because everybody seems to be coming out of the woodwork since we're letting them improve their space at the town's cost. The last one was a roof. That's normal upkeep in my opinion, but town council approved it, so we'll see where this one goes to. Thank you.
Mr. Stamey. I'd like to know who vets this before it comes to the council, but to make sure these people are qualified or saying that they're doing what they're doing. Is it business that usually vets this before it gets here, or is it you?
I think the final step before it comes to you all is through the business committee,
So the business committee has vetted this, what we have tonight, before it got here?
if my understanding is correct, yes, sir, they would
Thank
have.
Does it go from the business, I'm sorry, does it go from, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does it go from the business committee to you
It comes, we
to submit to
review it,
Jerry and?
we review it for if it meets our compliance, and then we send it on to the next step, which I'm pretty sure the next step, like in this case, we had to get an encroachment permit from Mr. Adair. And that was part of the process. You notice that's in the packet as well. But, then once it's all been signed off on, that we approve it, that there's no issue, that they can do it, then it goes, I'm pretty sure, to the business committee for final, and then it comes to you all.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
do we have anything in writing from the business committee said that they okayed it?
I'm not sure.
No, an email probably.
Okay. Maybe an email.
I guess I'm liaison business committee, and I'm all for asset grants and stuff like that. I don't remember it ever being discussed, other than an email chain of the people outside of the meeting. Usually, I mean, every other committee, they vote on stuff, and the meeting, they discuss it. I don't know if this has been done. That's one problem I have. Another problem I have with is, if this was in Furman Place, on the street where people, so you're attracting people to come to your restaurant, or your bar, or, any kind of a store, I would say, yeah, let's do it. This is an alleyway.
Yes, sir.
And I don't even want to discuss about that. One of the estimates has come from, it has to be, well, I know what the owner's name is, it's the same name the estimate comes from, it's the same address.
Yes, sir.
So they're given an estimate of their own business, so they can. But I'm not even gonna talk about that. I'd rather just, you can just look at it. It needs to be something done, but the picture, it needs to be, something has to be done.
Yes, sir.
Even if it's in the alleyway, but, doesn't look like they've ever done anything other than pile up wood. 5 years from now, they're gonna come for some more money because it's gonna look like this again. And I don't feel good about this.
Mr. Mayor, if I could,
Mr.
just to
Wallace.
respond to, Harry, that, the way they've got it set up, yeah, it is an alleyway, but the parking for their place is over there, and they've got a main entranceway into that courtyard back there where they have the live concerts. So I would say that it could be considered a storefront, because it is a major entrance to the restaurant during Fridays and Saturday nights when they have live music out there. But anyway, that's why they want to dress it up.
It sounds to me that the permitting process, they obviously have to go through you.
Yes, sir.
So,
They haven't pulled any permits as of yet.
But I mean, just, it should start with your
Yes.
department.
Yes, sir.
So it seems like it has to do that, and then they apply for the facade grant through the business committee, because, you know, you don't care who's paying for it. I mean, you're just evaluating it for appropriate, yes, okay. So then it seems like it has to go to the business committee, and they have to apply some rigor, not just it looks nice. So that's where these drawing requirements, that's not the PB&Z director's job, because she's not evaluating it for that. So that's where the business committee has to really, again, apply some rigor, look at those drawings, look at the bids, make some value judgments about if they're legit or not, because again, that's, you're gonna look for licenses. But you don't, the other part has nothing to do with you. So I think that's where it needs to be communicated. That probably is a good message for you to take back and make sure, and then they should appropriately vote on it. And I think the business committee should bring it to this group, not PB&Z, because she's just looking at the permits. They're the ones saying, we want to give $2,000 or whatever.
And that was,
Mr. Mayor.
that was my point.
Okay. Mr. Stanley.
I'd like to see you take this back and have it redone and redo it right before it comes back here.
That sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Director Garrison. Okay. We now have a resolution to supplement fiscal year 2025 budget, ordinance 24-0968. I'm just gonna skip that. We're gonna discuss the rollback millage amounts. Director Gruber.
You ready to be confused? Okay. Did y'all know this is a reassessment year? And I'm sure you're starting to get your reassessment values in. I know I got mine last week. So I worked with DOR and worked for several of the cities. What was provided in your packet is the DOR calculation. Department of Revenue, South Carolina Department of Revenue. Sorry.
It's okay.
This is the formula that you must use when you calculate rollback millage. So you'll see at the very top of that page, to determine your prior year taxes levied, you have your original net taxes, any supplements and refunds and errors come out. So your prior year taxes levied were 3.7 million. And the adjusted new reassessment value is 94 million. You divide that, and that comes to what your new millage would be. Also, that calculation requires you to put your current year CPI and growth in. So basically the 2 mills that were available for current year. So that comes to 42 mills. So in essence, we're rolling back 1 mill. We approved up to 4 mills, but to meet budget, we only need 1 additional mill over that. So that brings us to 43 mills, same millage rate as we currently have today. And our new value of the mill is 99, I'm gonna say 99.5. Because you gotta give yourself a little wiggle room here because you don't know who's not gonna pay, who's gonna, go to the county and appeal it. So this is where we are today.
All right. Are there any questions? Mr. Wallace,
Couple of questions.
Well, I would just like to say that I believe before we vote on this, you do have to read a resolution. But am I not correct on that? If we're going to be voting on it or no?
We never read a resolution before.
Yeah, we always do. Okay, whatever. If we don't have to, we don't have to.
I haven't read it before,
Proclamation, we
so-
always
so-
read. Yes.
So long as it's clear what you're voting on. I think that's
Yeah,
clear.
she can read it.
Yeah, I mean, I could do this,
No,
but,
that's fine.
yeah.
I just had a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. if I could.
You know
What
what,
needs to
though,
happen first?
actually, what I would like to do is, because this is a voting item, to take a motion first, and then we'll do the discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
I'd like to approve the resolution to supplement fiscal year 2025 budget, ordinance 24-0968, section 5, so as to include rollback millage amounts determined after assessment, which has been determined to be 43 mills.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I believe we were starting with Mr. Wallace.
Just had a couple of questions,
Okay.
clarification.
Go ahead.
Not, well, one question is clear. What is error? What does that mean? Were you wondering? Because that's quite a substantial amount of money. Do you know what it is?
I'd have to get with the county again to find out exactly what they meant by errors.
Oh, okay.
This information right here came directly from the county.
I tried to research it and I couldn't really
Yeah.
figure it out, so that's why I was gonna ask you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot though.
No, 108,000. You're deleting out. So that means they probably calculated something wrong, or,
Oh, that's just a whoopsie?
I don't know. Let me clarify that with them, because I don't want to speak for
No,
their
I
numbers.
get it. And the other thing I just wanted to state, and just for the good of the order and for the minutes and so forth, even though we approved a 4 mil increase,
Correct.
our residents are not gonna realize
No.
any increase.
What we
We're gonna stay
heard-
at the same 43 we were in
Correct.
last year.
Yes,
That's important because that may come up in conversation next year.
yes. But in essence, we are using 3 of our available mills, because we're using the 2 mills for the formula that was for current year.
Mhm.
And then we need the 3, we go back to 3 years that we have banked. We're gonna use 1 of that. But what we still have available for next year is like 6 mills, plus whatever the millage is increased allowable for next year.
Right.
So we still have some available millage should we.
I get that,
need it
but
going
the
into
important point I wanted to draw
But
out.
yes, we are
with you
same
is that we're
millage,
Same place. we were.
same place we
last year.
were. It's kind of confusing, but yes.
Well, yeah,
Well,
it's a bigger mill.
When we pay our taxes,
It's a bigger
It
mill
is,
this
now,
time,
and I
so,
wanted to,
yeah.
I did kind of a little example, and I'll just talk about it. So say your previous value was 210, that's what you got taxed on. Now you're at 310. That is your market value, but you have a cap. So you would be capped at 241,000, that's what you're taxed on. I did a calculation for ours, based on that, based on 241, that would be an additional $54 a year
Per household,
for that household
for
that,
that property,
yes. For the,
survivable. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Mr. Coleman?
So to pay for our budget, we're keeping the mills at what they were last year.
correct, because our value of the mill has gone up.
Right. So actually, we're getting $512,000 more. If we got last year, with everything taken out, 3.7, and now we're gonna get 4.2.
That is to meet our budget. Our budget for taxes was around 4.2, so we have to make sure we have enough millage to meet our budget. But we had planned on 4,
Right.
but we're not having to do 4.
Gonna use none. It's just that reassessment is gonna bring up, we're still gonna use 43. And
Correct, you're in
once
essence.
everything went up, your 43 is gonna be more money,
Correct.
but we're not increasing it 4 more mills on top of that.
No, in essence, it's 3 mills.
But if we hadn't approved it, it would have dropped to 40, right?
Yes. If 40 would have met budget, then you would be rolled back to 40.
So that's
But the
the
calculation
reason.
requires you to put in the growth too. And that's where we get to, we only need, roll back 1 mil, but we still need 1 additional mil that we have banked right now to meet our budget. So we're back around to 43.
That's a good thing.
Miss
Ms. Shaw?
Just so, math and me don't get along to begin with. But, after I almost passed out when I got my assessment, but, then I calmed down because then I was looking at the formula. But we raised taxes, we approved the raise for 4 mil,
Up to 4 mils.
up to 4 mil. We do not need to do that now.
Correct. Yes and no. We
Okay.
need, the CPI and growth, that is your millage for 24.
Okay,
Okay, so that would have been equated to 2 mils. So basically, you're using that in this formula.
okay,
And then we needed 1 additional mill on top of that instead of 2 more.
okay.
So in essence, it's 3 mills that we're using here. That was available to us.
Anything else? Anything else? All right, in that case, Ms. Medina?
Mr. Walls?
Oh, let me restate. I'm sorry. So, yeah, we are voting on the resolution to supplement fiscal year 2025 budget, ordinance 24-0968, section 5, so as to include the rollback millage amounts determined after reassessment. And what that is it leaves us at a millage rate of 43 mils.
Mr. Walls?
Yes.
Mr. Stamey?
Yes.
Mr. Cricklow?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkin?
Yes.
Ms. Fallon?
Yes.
Mayor Kraus?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Director Gruber. It was a challenge. We sat down for about 10, 15 minutes on it ourselves, so. Okay, ordinance, item 7C, ordinance 24-0969, addressing derelict or unregistered vehicles. I'll just leave it at that now. Ms. Fallon, do you want to? Would you, I guess, actually, I would like you to make a motion. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion for, let me get my numbers straight here. For ordinance 24-0969, to have a discussion first.
But we'll discuss. I mean,
Okay.
we will discuss.
Okay.
So, yeah, but you're just making a motion to amend.
Amend to approve change, to receive approval for the change of ordinance 24-0969.
I'll second that.
Okay, but I think we should state what the basic change is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the motion needs to carry that.
So for ordinance 24-0969, the change is to line up with 2 other sections within the same ordinance. The change would be the store inside a completely enclosed structure. Right now, it has, unless housed in an enclosed garage or simply covered by, and this is the part, covered by adequate canvas or similar type cover. This wording does not line up with the other 2 sections of the same ordinance. And you have that in section 7-61, junk or property, on property, and 7-46, nuisance affecting public welfare and safety.
Okay, so I think the motion then would be that you want to strike the phrase housed in an enclosed garage or substantially covered by an opaque. You want to replace that
Yes.
housed in an enclosed garage or substantially covered by an opaque canvas or similar type cover with stored inside a completely enclosed structure.
Correct.
Okay. You got that now?
But the motion can just simply be, I make a motion to accept ordinance 24-0969 to change the language in certain sections of chapter 17. It
Okay,
can be that simple.
all right, we'll take that.
Well, because it's really not a motion when you're explaining in the motion what it is.
Okay, very well. So we need a second now.
Yeah, I was looking at it. So, yeah, I'll second it.
All right, very well. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Fallon, since this was you may start the discussion.
Okay. The issue I have here is several residents had contacted me one particular resident, she's living across the street that has 4 junk cars that she looks at every day. She's having a problem selling her home because of the 4 junk cars that are untagged. So when I looked up the ordinance, of course, I was looking up in this section here, and what it is there's 3 different areas that 2 of them say that has to be in an enclosed structure. One says basically it can just be covered. So they're not matching up. It's the same ordinance with language and a different one. So I did work with planning and zoning at one time when I initially got this call from the resident, and they went out and they covered the cars, because this is what one of the section that I want changed, 17-427, says they need, that's the requirement, just to cover it. Well, guess what? The covers don't work. The wind blows off. Chris went back out there twice. The bottom line, so when I got researching, I found 2 more sections within the same ordinance, what reads, what I want to change to say derelict vehicles are not permitted in any zoning district unless, this is the part I want changed to match up with the other 2, stored inside a completely enclosed structure, means in a backyard where it can't be seen to lessen somebody else's property value, basically. In a garage, any kind of structure that could be, because 7.61 does say that, and so does 7-46, saying in a structure area, enclosed in a structure area. We do have a couple of properties that are taking advantage. They're filled to this one particular resident that called me, and I rode past there. The cars are filled with junk. They are just basically storage items, and now there's 4 of them untagged. So my recommendation, my motion, is to change this language so we can go to planning and zoning and say to these individuals, they have to be within an enclosed structure.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Crockwell.
I'd like to say I, for one, could not build a structure to cover my 2 vehicles that I own. There's not enough impervious land to put any structure up on my property. I have 2 vehicles that are covered almost year round. I hardly ever drive anywhere unless I'm going on vacation. If anybody knows me, they know that mine are always covered. Well, I would be out of compliance with this. And I think that covering them with, I think the other 2 should be changed rather than this one be changed, because there's a lot of property, especially the older properties in town, do not have garages. So we're expecting them to build a garage to put their vehicle in if they are covering it instead of just parking it. I know what the intent is to get rid of the junk vehicles, but this has unintended consequences that I don't think should happen. So that's just my opinion.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'd like to address that actually, because I spoke with Director Garrison yesterday, and covers would still be allowed if you have a classic car or something like that. This applies specifically to derelict and unlicensed vehicles.
How do you determine?
So that's what I wanted to know. Is this enforceable, and is a cover enough to ask somebody to look at it? And do you want to comment on that, or?
Typically with code enforcement, it is complaint based, so we would be going out on a complaint to look at the covered vehicle that would be complained. As long as it's licensed and operable, there will be no issue. You would be in compliance with the ordinance. It's hard to.
Well, you're kind of, in my opinion, Mr. Mayor.
No, let's go ahead.
In my opinion, we should not be allowed to go in on a covered vehicle and say, hey, is that licensed? Here's a good scenario. I have a sports car, hardly ever gets drove. In the next few years, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I'll quit paying licensing and probably insurance on it. And it may sit there for another 4 or 5 years before I decide what to do with it, because it's basically a somewhat of a collectible vehicle. But anyway, I just don't, I know it's based on people calling in, but somebody could call me in, if it's not licensed, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fine me, right? And I don't wanna be put in that position. And I don't think other people should be either. I think we need to, rather than make people build areas to put their vehicle, buildings to put their vehicles in, we just need to make sure that they are covered. If they're filled with junk, it's covered. You can't tell it's filled with junk. And if it's derelict and you got rats running in and out of it, then you have other ways to deal with it also. I just think that it's overstepping our bounds.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw.
this came to me by several residents that have this issue. The one is extremely bad. Okay, she can't even sell her house because these vehicles, and they did come out, Eric went out, not Eric, Chris went out and even helped them cover it. Well, guess what? The covers blow off. But the thing is, they are unlicensed vehicles. And I'm pretty sure I would go to the state law, because the state law is a little bit more stricter than our town law. The bottom line is they're unlicensed vehicles. They're junk vehicles. Okay, they're not neatly covered. You can tell the weeds are overgrown, the vehicles. It's very sloppy. It's very ugly. It's bringing down property value. So to me, if you have 3 sections in the same ordinance and 2 read that they must be put in a enclosed structure and 1 doesn't, you would think you would want the one that doesn't to match up with the other 2. And that was what I found out for this resident. And she was thrilled. She goes, no one's ever done this for me. And I know personally I wouldn't want to live across the street from that house. There's trash bags in it. It's ugly. It's not like somebody has an extra, I'm not talking about boats that are nicely covered, you take them out for a ride when the weather's nice, or a sports car, you take that out. But these are vehicles that are unlicensed, and I think that's the big point, unlicensed, and they're junk. So that's why I brought this up.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add one more thing. I have a trailer. Trailers don't have to be licensed. It sits behind one of my outbuildings. I pretty much keep care of it. I wash and wax it every 2 years or so, but it's never moved since I moved here. I thought about selling it at one time, but since it's a trailer, I can leave it parked there and use it as storage. But if we're gonna make me cover it, or if I have to build a building, I can't. Otherwise I would have built a building a long time ago and parked my vehicles in the building. So that's all I guess I got.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stanley?
I'm sort of on the side of Mr. Kirklaw. I know of a couple campers who are sitting in town with expired license plates, sitting there with flat tires on one side and the camper looking pretty nasty looking. What do we do with them? I mean, do we have to make them cover them or get them out of town? Or, what are we gonna do with, how are you gonna enforce it? It's, as she said now, it's called complaint, how they do it now. And that's basically what they're gonna do after this. So I don't know where we're going with this. I don't know that we're trying to make people build more buildings, or are we just trying to get rid of junk cars? Do we need to set up a new ordinance for this? I don't know what we're after. I can't get the picture of what we're after here.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
I think what we're after is not having derelict and unlicensed vehicles on your property looking like a junkyard. We're not talking about a car that, your registration's expired for a month or so. We're talking about people who have cars on their property, trailers or RVs on their property with their tires deflated. They're turning into a rust bucket. And all of our homes are depreciating because somebody wants to collect junk cars. And if you don't want to license your car, you're gonna have to get rid of it. You can't keep it there, or bring it to an outdoor storage facility. This isn't, Tobacco Alley here. This is a nice community. There's no reason for people to be storing junk cars, not only in their driveway, but on their lawn. We have ordinances that say after a certain amount, you gotta cut your lawn. Well, these people can't cut their lawn because we have 4 or 5 cars sitting on it. We're not talking about, somebody parking a licensed RV. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about somebody who has a licensed boat. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people who don't wanna pay their tax, because an RV, you pay a huge tax on it. They wanna park it, possibly, on their thing and let it turn into garbage. I don't think that's right for any of us. If you want to store something, have it licensed. If you don't want to license it, put it in an outdoor storage facility. It's not our responsibility to have our homes depreciate because somebody wants to collect garbage. It's not the town I came to, and it's not a big problem, but it is a problem. We have several houses in this community who do this. And I don't see, I understand Mr. Krakow, he covers his cars, they're licensed. And in the future, if he doesn't want to license it, fine, bring it to an outdoor storage facility or rent a garage. It's a simple solution.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bouchette, perhaps more of a question. My only concern is with regard to the second sentence that specifically says unlicensed buses, trucks, vans, trailers. My question would be, and perhaps planning and zoning could help this, if we have a scenario such as Mr. Kreklaw proposes, which is an unlicensed vehicle which is covered, which has perhaps been sitting there for some period of time, and which neighbors probably suspect may be unlicensed, but is ultimately covered, not visible from the road. How does planning and zoning purport to uncover its status as being licensed or unlicensed without performing a search upon the property? I don't know if that's been,
That's
if I have
my
an answer for that,
concern.
or if that's a,
Yeah. Do you have an answer? I mean, have you considered how to do that yet?
Well, I mean, basically, if we get a complaint, we give it to code enforcement, they go to the address, they'll knock on the door, say, I have a complaint that there's a unlicensed vehicle under your cover or under tarp or whatever. So the owner would have to uncover the tarp to say, yes, it's licensed and up to date, or no, it's not.
Well, but I would think of a police issue. I mean, this isn't a criminal case, but if you had a complaint from somebody using drugs and you want to go into the house, they can say no.
Well,
and you can't go in.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I mean, if the homeowner says it is licensed and no, I don't want to show it to you, then short of some other legal authority, I don't think planning and zoning has the authority to perform a search of your property there.
Yeah, if they're denied, that's comes up.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kinkin.
does this apply to businesses also? Because we have 2 businesses that have derelict vehicles on their property. I asked the question earlier. One of them, I drove by this morning, I counted 12 vehicles with no license. 3 vehicles that couldn't be driven if it had a license. And I don't think the vehicles are in Surfside, came from Surfside, they came from somewhere else. So this doesn't look like it excludes businesses from this, which I hope it does, because I would like to enforce this equally.
In any zoning district.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
I believe those, and believe me, it's an eyesore, but I believe those places are used car lots, or they're designated as used car lots. And just to go back to the thing, the only thing we're changing really is that it has to be an enclosed structure. So it has to be behind a fence, or has to be in a building. I mean, it's always been housed in a enclosed, used to be housed in an enclosed garage or substantially covered by an opaque canvas or similar type cover. So nothing's really changed with enforcement of it. We've always had it that you had to have it covered if it wasn't licensed. So now we're just taking that one out, saying you have to have it in an enclosed structure or behind a fence. But it's always been that way, you know, since they made up these ordinances that you had to have it covered. So how would you, all along, how are we checking this?
Mr. Chair, I think the distinction would be that if it was uncovered, you could observe it from the road without having to perform a search as to whether or not that vehicle is licensed, because you'd be able to see it presumably from the road. But if it's covered, and then you're having to uncover it at some point to determine if it's licensed or not, I think that's where enforcement in those scenarios could get difficult.
Right, but it's always said you have to have it covered.
That's right. And so, but the distinction is saying, all right, well, if something's on your property which is covered, not discernible from apparent view, then if it's not licensed, it needs to be in a garage. How are you going to determine if that covered vehicle is in fact an unlicensed vehicle without performing a search upon the covered vehicle?
But that's what we've always been doing. We've had covered vehicles unlicensed, and they were all right. Now we're saying if they're unlicensed, you can't cover them, leave them there. So we always had the problem with a car there and determining if it was in fact a license when it was covered. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I don't. My understanding is currently, without having the full ordinance book behind me, is that currently unlicensed vehicle must be covered. Okay?
Right.
So if I'm driving by, I can observe from the road whether or not that vehicle, which I can see, is licensed or not. And if it's not, then it has to then be covered under the current ordinance, is my understanding.
Because I'm reading what is crossed out. Housed in an enclosed garage or substantially covered by an opaque canvas or similar type cover. So we're just taking out the choice of substantially covered by an opaque canvas. Just remains the same. We've always had it. You can't have, if you have an unlicensed vehicle, you have to have it covered. Now we're just saying, if you have an unlicensed vehicle, you can't have it out in the driveway just covered.
Right. It's not just covered, but must also be an enclosed structure. So that I think the only disconnect is in those scenarios where it is covered such that it would be in compliance with the current wording of the ordinance. But we suspect it's not licensed. How do we then determine that it's?
That's the way it is now, though.
Mr. Mayor.
Michelle, you already had 2 terms. I'm gonna say here, I think, I like this idea, but I think it's unenforceable with just this. There's no due cause to uncover the vehicle, to inspect it. So I think we need a little more work on this, is my personal opinion, but I would support the principle if we can make it workable. We don't want derelict vehicles especially in front yards. And I know exactly the property we're talking about. It's up the street from me. So I see it all the time, and it looks terrible, and I get it. But I don't think just saying it has to be, taking out the ability to cover it works, because you can still cover vehicles. So there's no way to know if that's a licensed or unlicensed vehicle. And you can't have
PB&Z going code enforcement, lifting up the cover. You can't go on private property and check that out. So again, I support the idea, but I think we need more work. And I don't know if Director Garrison could come up with ideas. I don't know. I think maybe at a future time, we can bring this back. Any other comment?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to say that I didn't get it at first, but then I took the time to ride by that place because I don't travel by it every day. And I rode by the home in question, and y'all, wow, I wouldn't want that across the street from me, not with the investment that I've got in my home, and I think most of us. So I think it does. I'm concerned that we're going to sweep this away because it is our obligation to help protect our residents from people who take advantage of situations. And we're leaving no recourse for this lady that has lived across from this for all these years. And now she's trying to sell her property, and it is affecting her value. It should be something that we're saying to all of our residents, that we all have pride and a standard for our community, and this is not acceptable. This home, I'm not going to call it out, but if you've been by it, you would know that it really doesn't look like it belongs in our town. So we need to have some recourse, if we had to force people to get rid of these vehicles. If they're not using them, they're just sitting out there, then they need to get rid of them. That's my comment on this. Protecting the residents is what we're about.
Mr. Mayor, can we call for the vote?
If there's no other comments, and there's a couple people that can still talk.
Well,
I'm not one of them.
I wish I could.
Yeah.
Because you're missing a point here.
Well, unfortunately, that is Robert's rules. So, all right, is there any other comment? All right, Ms. Medina? Oh, let me restate the motion. We are,
Can I restate it since it's?
Sure, go ahead.
My motion to vote on 17-427 is to have it written, derelict and unlicensed vehicles. Derelict vehicles are not permitted in any zoning district unless stored inside a completely enclosed structure, removing, housed in an enclosed garage or substantial cover by an adequate canvas or similar type cover. Due to the fact that section 7-61 and 7-46, it would, with this change of wording, that.
Yeah.
Well,
You can't listen
well,
listen to me.
it's frustrating because I can't, you're missing the point. All right, never mind.
Okay, but that is basically the motion right up to that point. So we have a motion, we have a second. And Ms. Medina, will you take the vote?
It's to change the language as showed in the red line
Yeah.
version.
Okay, correct. And she read it. She just
She
read it.
did,
Yeah. But that's fine.
Ms. Fallon,
Yes.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Crecklaw,
No.
Mr. Stamey,
No.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Mayor Kraus.
I vote no, but the motion carries 4-3, and we'll proceed. Figure out how to enforce it later, I suppose. Okay. With that in mind, we now move on to a committee reappointment. And specifically, this is a reappointment to the ATAX committee, an existing member, as I say, reappointed, Jan Buis. And I'll just do it. I'll make a motion to reappoint Jan Buis to the ATAX committee. I'll second that. Whoever you pick, Ms. Medina. Is there any discussion? All right, then I'm just going to do a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we are now at item 8, public comments. Town services or business conducted, 5 minutes per speaker. We got one coming up already.
My name's John Hyatt. I live at 515 Lakeshore Drive. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a parliamentarian, but I believe that what this body did last week to a volunteer citizen employee of this town was absolutely wrong. You reprimanded a man, put his name in the public, and you didn't do it according to Robert's Rules of Order. Robert Rules of Order require a person who is being disciplined to receive due process. Due process is being informed of the charges, being able to mount a defense, which means the time to put a defense together, being at the hearing to provide a defense on your behalf. You guys didn't do that. You held a meeting in secret. You kept the man out of that meeting, and then you reprimanded him, put his name in the public eye, and reprimanded him. If you look at Robert Rules of Order number 43, it says that if a body even passes a motion unanimously, and that motion violates other rules of order, bylaws, laws, etc., then it's null and void. What this council did last week to a man of this town should be considered null and void. This body should apologize to the man, to the public, explain why it happened and how it will never happen again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Keith Ashton, ASHBY, 418 13th Avenue North, regarding the discussion you just had about the ordinance about the derelict vehicles. I just want to say, they can also be a public health hazard, attracting rats and other animals, and that could in turn be a health hazard to the public. I just wanted to say that for consideration, even though the ordinance passed. I don't know if that's something we could use to enforce, but again, it's also a public health issue as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, then we're going to close this portion with our town council discussion of comments. So I'm going to start with Mr. Stain.
Won't be short and sweet tonight. Thanks for coming. Thanks to our employees. And all of you have a good night and see you in a couple weeks.
Mr. Coleman.
Thanks for coming out. Enjoy the cooler weather. It's not as hot as it was last week. We do make mistakes here. In hindsight, I probably would have had the person who we were talking about at least be able to defend himself. Because of executive session, we already did that once before. So I think we goofed on that. We make mistakes. Okay.
Mr. Walls. Just thanks for our residents who are listening in. Thanks for the folks that came out tonight. Thanks so much for our employees. All the hard work you guys put in, we appreciate it. Great directors for us tonight. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Mr. Cracklow.
Well, I'll be a little longer than normal, but not much. I never really say that I like our employees or whatever. I think our employees do a great job. All of our committees do a great job. We need them all. And with that being said, I probably will keep it short again next time, but with that, good night.
Mr. Kinkin.
I want to thank everybody that's here and hope there are a lot of people tuned in. Special thanks to our directors, good reports. You all do great work. I hope you tell your people on a daily basis what a good job they're doing. Planning and zoning has been an fresh air right now. Things are getting done, and I just really like the direction we're going. Jerry does a good job. He keeps us informed, And, okay, I'm kissing up. I'm real pleased with what's going on in town. And we have a great town and I want to keep it that way. So with that, I'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
First of all, I said it before about planning and zoning, and when residents are calling me and they feel so good now. I don't know if it's they know who to call now or they just needed a little help or direction. And when you do that and call in Public Works and, when the people see, for example, I already, the speeding sign, apparently the speeding sign on Fifth was removed and put back, and it was not put back the way that Public Works had originally put it in the ground, nice and smooth. It was a tripping hazard. So, I got John involved, and it meant so much for the residents to see immediate response. They understood it's summertime, they expect it within a month or something. But it's the same thing with planning and zoning. There were sidewalks that needed to be fixed. And when the residents see the different departments out there, they feel encouraged that, hey, if I do say something, something will be done. Instead of just sitting and, griping, I'm not going to call. But they feel more comfortable about calling when they see results. So I applaud everyone, all your departments. You're really making a difference in the town. My second thing is, so sorry that you had to sit through the commotion of what I brought up about junk cars. But we need to update our ordinance, and when you have in an ordinance one section, and within that one ordinance, 3 sections has 2 things that says one thing and one says another, you got to fix it, because then you can't do anything. And that was the main point I was trying to drive here tonight, besides the fact that unlicensed vehicles are unlicensed vehicles. And you have junk cars out there. And we can go down the road and address. But I did this for residents, well, a couple residents. I have, in fact, 3 that this is affecting, and this will help them. So thanks for having patience tonight as we were going through that. My last thing is, I did not like what we did in the executive session with a certain gentleman. In fact, I came that night not knowing what we were doing. I was not informed as a council person that's what we were going to talk about. And I think this council needs to get better of telling us what we're going to sit and talk about. And in my opinion, it was not done the right way. And personally, I will apologize. I've already met with the individual. I've talked to him. It was a wrong way to do things. So it's not across the board up here. But I just want to say thank you for coming out here. Thank you for listening. And when you do see something, say something, because you can make a difference in our community. Good night.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a few comments, and mine might be a little longer, but first I'm going to start with wish my wife happy 33rd anniversary tonight. We did go out to dinner 2 nights ago and took her to lunch today, so hopefully I'm okay. But with that, I also want to talk about the League of Cities. This came up kind of suddenly about a month ago. The town that was supposed to host was planning to do it at an outdoor pavilion, Briar Cliff Acres, and I guess nobody thought in April when we said it what that would be like in July. So we got the urgent call for Surfside Beach host, and Miss Medina and Miss Tabitha Mall took over. I mean, I didn't really do anything, but they set it all up and they're making it happen, and it looks like it will be a very nice meeting, and I'm looking forward to showcase the town to all of our the other municipalities here in Horry County. The Pelicans game, I've said it to a few people that running the meetings and going through the issues and all that, I mean, some of that's tough and we have tough things to do. I am more nervous about throwing out a first pitch probably than anything else. We'll see how that goes, but I've been working out. I have a couple of friends in the back that have been throwing with me a little bit, so try not to embarrass the town. The departments, I'm really pleased with police, fire, and planning, building, and zoning. Just there's so much positive direction, staffing, all of those departments, the work they're doing. I don't want to leave out public works, but that has been running well for years. And finance is really stepping up too. I think things are getting a lot clearer in this town. So I just am really pleased with the whole direction the town's going. Next meeting, we should have a large timer for everybody to see. I don't know where we're gonna put it, but Ms. Medina, this side, so that I don't sit here with my cell phone and forget to try to time people and all that. But it'll have a 5-minute timer, and we're trying to stick to Robert's rules, and that's one thing that I think will help. With that in mind, I will confess, I'm not so versed in Robert's rules with discipline. I've never encountered that before. But I will look into that, and if we have made an error, I will publicly acknowledge that, no problem. On the derelict cars, I'm concerned about, due cause to inspect it. We definitely have to have the language match, and I definitely want to figure out a way to address derelict cars, but maybe through nuisance ordinances or whatever. But it needs 2 readings now, so we have time to work on that. That's it. I ran through the whole list. So we now are going to move into executive session, and I've already said we've been looking for a permanent police chief. We're going to be discussing that, and we're going to talk about peer mediation. So we'll have more news after that ends. But right now, I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn the regular session and move to executive. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll read it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, Mr. Wallace, yes.
I'd like to make a motion to exit normal session and go into executive session pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, section 30-4-70A1, discussion of employment, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, or release of employee, police chief, section 30-4-70A2, discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements, and to receive legal advice where the legal advice relates to pending, threatened, or potential claim, or any other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege consensus.
Second.
Okay, we have a second there.
Good job, Terry.
Take a breath now. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We are now exiting the regular meeting.